Hello guys, and welcome to the channel. So today we'll be looking at the Christian Bale Batman wave. And a few weeks back I had this figure before camera with my Bane figure, and I had them in combat poses. But I did mention during that review that I was going to come back to all the Batman villains and have a little chat about them. And I like that, he's looking mean and moody with the sticky bomb gun. But behind him you'll see the DVD, part of my collection, and there's the image of that figure, The Dark Knight Rises. And when I bought this DVD, not long after the film come out, well when the film was released, it was about 3 months before it went on DVD. But this is a special edition, and inside you got another disc going into the history of the film, but you also get postcards, and this image on the front of this DVD is one of those postcards, and I'll pause it so you can see the other. So I'll pull back and get you ready for the other postcard. So I've moved Batman to the right a little bit more. Let's just come in to him one more time. I love that detail. And I've had him in the Batmobile, which you may have seen if you go on to one of my reviews about the Batmobiles and the figures they come with. But there is that other card. There's a bit of light glare there, but essentially you can see him on the Bat Cycle. So if ever you wanted to pose your figure with Batman, you could use either one of the two cards that come in this DVD. So we're going to look at the Batman villains and pose them out. And the first of those villains is connected to that money diorama there. So I think you've worked it out. So let's get on with the review. Right then. So here's your first one. Heath Ledger as the Joker. And just have a little bit of chat about him. He's been re-released in a deluxe version, and I've looked very carefully online on that release and the Bane release, so we're going to have a chat about him when he comes up before camera. But in all honesty, unless you're a completist and you want to get every variant of everything, there's not much reason to have it, and I'll explain that, because the colours are pretty much the same. They're probably being changed slightly to give them more pop. But what I've done is I put a Joker's card in there, and that's off my larger version of this particular figure, Heath Ledger Joker. It's a larger one. You could call it Hot Toys. And I've demonstrated that with this figure. And that's one of the things you get with the deluxe version. I think you get a grip in hand and you get weapons, but I wouldn't need weapons because I've got all those, which you're going to see him posed out with from the McFarlane's accessory pack. And I've got 2 packets of those. So it wouldn't be much benefit to me to get the upgrade. So let's start posing him out. So yeah, so I've got him off that diorama onto a stand with that weapon, and I quite like that. I'll pose that weapon with my John Wick figure. You may have seen that reviewed on the channel. So that's not a bad weapon. Let's turn him at a different angle and see what that looks like. So I'll kind of change the angle so you can see the weapon in a different way. raised his fist aloft. And before we go to the next one, just go to that image there. So you get two of those, and well, not of that image, but you get two Joker-like postcards. That's the first one. I love that. I love that as a big poster, and I'll show you the second one in a bit. So that's that weapon out the way. Let's look at the next. So sort of a pump action shotgun there. That actual weapon is quite fiddly for most of the McFarlane's figures to grip, mostly because it's about around that narrow neck where the trigger area is. But if you're patient, you get there. Okay, let's change the angle. So slight change of direction. So let's keep going. So this weapon here is actually one I've posed with my Dark Knight Returns Joker. And it does suit that figure because he kind of looks like a 30s or 40s gangster in the outfit he's in. So it looks right. This one I'm not sure about, but at least I had to see it. And I've posed his head slightly down for some attitude. Looks good there. Let's turn him onto a different angle. So, like that profile. That's not too bad. Not the kind of gun I personally want to put him with, but it's nice to have it on camera. Okay, let's go for the next one. So, I'll put a hand pistol with him, and I like that. Can't remember if he used a weapon like this in the movie, but he did have a few, and I like that. So let's change the angle and see what that looks like. So I like that. Kept his head tilted down, and I will do this with all my figures if I like the pose and the head needs to be tilted down. I'll do it. But I'll tilt it up just to see what that looks like. Okay, that's what it looks like. Yeah, I should have kept the head down. Not the end of the world. But it doesn't look bad anyway. Let's go for the next. So there's the next one. And I've posed him this way with this gun. I suppose that gun was kind of made famous by Jack Nicholson when he played the Joker. And if I remember rightly, in one scene, at the top of that barrel pops a kind of bang flag, like a joke gun effect, but it does actually fire bullets because you see him take down the Batwing with it. But that's that one. I'm not even going to do an angle shot. I'll just move on to the next. Kept him in the same pose. Kalashnikov. Not bad. Not bad at all. It looks good with a Kalashnikov. One more close up. Okay. I won't angle him on this one either. I'm going to push it along a bit now because of time. So there's the next weapon. And of course he is on one knee. It has to be done. But it's kind of familiar, that weapon. I think it could have been one of the weapons he does use. But yeah, I like him on that. In that position. Show you another one. That's a pose I've had him in before, but not with that weapon. And it's something I came across by accident, wondering if I could do it, wondering if the figure was flexible enough, but it was, and I like that. And I think now that is my elected new pose for him to go back into my display with, because I haven't posed him with this weapon and I do like it. Nice one. So, as I said, if you got the first wave of this figure, which I have, and you got the accessory pack, maybe you don't need that upgrade. So let's go on to the next. We're coming to the end. So, I like the seated position on this figure, so all I've done is I've replaced the weapon you just saw with the bazooka. And yes, he can get on one knee with that thing and appear to be firing it, but I like this pose, and I'm going to change the angle slightly and then come up for the last weapon of the day. So here we go, the side-on view, and I like that as well. I've enjoyed posing this figure today. I did these guys a while back on the old camera, which was very poor quality, very blurry, and I like some of the poses I did back then, but this is a very different review to what I did a couple of years ago, and I like it. So let's go to the final weapon and move on to the next Batman villain, which will be Bane. So here's the last weapon then. Of course, I had to get him with a knife or a bladed weapon, and that actual weapon comes off my Dark Knight Returns Joker, which is the only accessory it came with. But when I reviewed him a few months ago, I did use, I think, that weapon there, the little Glock. But while we're down here, those are the weapons you've been seeing today, and I quite like the way this figure poses with weapons. So if you don't have an upgrade, you can stay with your first wave figure and get yourself an accessory pack. So let's bring out Bane. So these are my Banes, and we'll come to him first. And just to save on time, I've got them both out here in front of camera so I can divide the weapons between them. And that's not really a gripping hand. My coated Bane has that. Well, it's a gripping hand, but it's not a trigger hand, but you can still work with it. And so we come over to my coated Bane. Now, when I was after Bane, I wanted him to come like this, but you couldn't get him. You had to build him as a figure by binding other figures, which is that figure there, the Build-A-Figure Bane. But when I got him, loved him because he comes with the same kind of hands as my other uncoated Bane, and so you can do different hand gestures, gripping weapons, and I do like the coated version more for overall look. But when I'm having him in fight mode, I tend to go to this guy. So let's change out those weapons, see what we got next. Okay, again, this weapon, when I saw it with Joker, wasn't really the weapon that should be with Joker. Might have thought it could have worked with Bane, but it doesn't for me, but at least I'm seeing it. And just wanted to see other Bane, coated Bane, side on view with that bazooka. quite like it. Big weapon for a big guy. Right, let's move it on. So, coming in close on this one, the shotgun. And that's not an easy grip because it's not really a trigger hand, but you can get away with it. And over on this side, I like that dynamic. Not bad at all. That's the good thing about having two Banes. You create different poses for them and put them with the appropriate figures. So yeah, let's something going on with the focus, I think, but okay, let's crack on. Okay, so that's the other weapon. Looks more military in that, a coat and that weapon combined. And then I put the other weapon you've just seen him with into the hand of uncoated Bane. Not too bad. Okay, we've got the last one coming up, I think. So there you go. Now I've got this figure back in a familiar pose. That's how I had him in my display, holding that cowl or broken mask. And actually had a trigger hand in there, so he's also holding a weapon. I think it was a Glock, but I like that. And then we've got Bane there with a Kalashnikov. And that Kalashnikov also works well with uncoated Bane, but it's a nice look. Okay, so let's bring it back to center and bring back the final three Batman villains. Here we go. So these are the final three villains. Villainess in the middle there, and that's Catwoman, played by Anne Hathaway. I think at this level the lightness is okay, and I was going to buy the other version of this figure that comes with the Bat Cycle, but I really wanted a Bat Cycle for my Christian Bale Batman, even though she looks good on it. And there's the string of Martha Wayne pearls there that she's stolen. But yeah, okay, let's go over to Two-Face, played by Aaron Eckhart. And I'm not putting these guys with any other weapons than the ones you're seeing, because it'd be just the same old thing all over again, but they all have been posed with the weapons you've seen today, and they are really good to see them that way, but I just have to make this a quick one. And on this side, we've got Scarecrow. Now, this Scarecrow was a figure I didn't want, but I needed him to get the builder figure, the Bane figure. And since having him, I love him. I love that kind of straight jacket, which is all frayed, and the detail and the suit underneath. And I know they released one where it's just, see that suit there? It's just him in the suit and the masks there. But I like this version. Kind of think it's lifts the kind of sinisterness of the character. So I'll change him to a slightly different angle, and then I'm going to call it a day. Okay, right. So this is the last one. They've been changed slightly out of position. I've got Catwoman back on her feet. That's the way she's going back into the display. And I love the way this figure looks on camera. Nice to pose. Had her with lots of different weapons. Was going to do an individual review on her with all those weapons, like you just seen with Joker and Bane, but I'm not going to. I'm going to do it at some point, but not important to get this one in with her with lots of weapons. But this is the only weapon I hadn't posed it with until recently, and I love it. It's the sort of thing this Catwoman would do based on her performance in that film. And then let's come over to Two-Face. And they did well with this figure actually, because the tie is kind of the same. It does appear that colour in the film, not always the same colour. I think the face sculpt is good, but overall I've got him sort of running or kind of moving just to create a dynamic. And then we come finally over to Scarecrow. As I say, didn't really want him to begin with, but I love him. I think you can just about make up some eyes underneath that mask. So that is the end of the review of Batman's villains, or villainess as well, and showing you the different poses, the articulation that you can get the figures in to, and how they look with weapons. But I'm not going to do any more. This camera seems like at an angle like that, so I apologise if that's what's been going on. Let's come in a bit closer. That's a bit better. And I'll say thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.